So instead of drawing actual objects, we're just going to draw these basic forms, as I mentioned before, cubes, cylinders, and spheres. We have to master those before we can draw objects made out of cubes, cylinders, and spheres. So in order to do this exercise, the first thing that I want you to do with your paper oriented in front of you, like mine, horizontally, I want you to divide the paper in half. So just make an estimate. Don't get a ruler. Your tendency is going to be to go get a ruler. Remember, talking about drawing large and drawing loose. We want a loose grip, and just make a big, broad, sweeping line, vertical line, separating your paper into approximately 2 equal halves. Mine's not quite even as I look up. Then we take each half and divide that in half with a vertical line, so that we divide our paper into 4 columns. And this is just to help organize our space, so that I want to make sure you guys fit everything on this paper that we need to draw, because I want it all in one space. So we're going to start out with just a very simple cube. And when we draw our cubes, I want to draw them so that we see 3 sides or 3 dimensions, so that immediately we're already teaching ourselves how to draw 3-dimensionally. So in order to do so, instead of starting with a square, I want to start with a line. So I want you to just draw a vertical line, maybe about 1 inch or so tall. Okay, you notice I've changed my grip. I am taking a tighter grip because I am drawing smaller. Normally, I would be holding my pencil like this because I'd be drawing real large, trying to fill up the whole page. But we're drawing pretty small shapes, so I'm changing my grip more to how I would if I was writing. So we start with the vertical line. Make sure your line is straight up and down. Always compare your vertical lines to the edges of your paper. Your paper is already square. You know, and if this was a work of art and you're going to hang it on a wall, you'd want everything to be parallel to the edges. So always look at whatever you're drawing when it comes to vertical and horizontal lines and compare them to the edges of your paper. So we got a vertical line going nice straight up and down. And then what we're going to do is draw some diagonal lines, which are going to represent the edges of the shape going back in space. So I'm going to draw at a random angle. I just want to make sure when I draw an angled line on the bottom that it is parallel, for now at least, parallel to the one on the top. Then we can finish that off by drawing a straight line straight down. Now, if you didn't make your lines equal length, that's okay. Don't connect them by drawing over to here, because then you'll end up with a tilted line. You want to instead make sure your line is still going straight up and down, and you can erase any overhang later on. Now on the other side, we're going to do the same thing, just going at the opposite angle. Draw an angled line, and then again on the bottom, draw one parallel to it. And then drop your line straight down, comparing it to the edge of your paper. And if there's any overhang, you can erase that later on. Now the 2 trickiest lines are these ones in the back. Because they're a little bit farther away from these lines, they're harder to get parallel. So when we draw this line here, we want to make sure that it's parallel to this one. Okay, because in reality, if we were looking at this was a real structure, they should be parallel to each other. We're not really getting into perspective drawing. We'll get into that later. So you want to make sure that it is parallel. If it's not going to be perfect, if anything, you want to bring it down more rather than having it go up here. You definitely don't want to go up here. In our minds, we want to make 90-degree corners. So it kind of messes with our mind when we see these angles here, because we always think cube, we think square, and we have these 4 90-degree corners right here, but we're not making those because we're looking at this and we're creating a cube that we're looking at from an angle, not straight at the flat side. So you angle this down, and then you come over to this corner here and you angle that downward, again attempting to make it parallel to this one. And if you're going to err on the side of going lower, bringing it down rather than going up, because at least like mine, I've made it, they're not quite parallel. This one comes down a little bit lower, but it's believable because of perspective. Things get smaller as they get further away. And that's how you draw your basic cube. Now what we're going to do as we progress down, we are going to draw the illusion of cubes as seen from different eye levels. So our eye level must be above this cube because we can see the top of it. Our eye level is above, we're looking down. The more we raise that cube up or we lower our head, let's say if it was a real object like a table, the less you're going to see of the top. So to create that illusion, first we start with our vertical line. To create that illusion, we make lines at lower angles like this, okay? Not going up at such a steep angle like this. Instead, we're coming down at a lower angle because as you get closer to eye level, things level out, okay? Or they get flatter. Okay, down here at the bottom. Now on the bottom, we can still go a little bit steeper because this down here is further below eye level. And so lines want to go to eye level, okay? I'm getting ahead of myself, but a little bit about perspective drawing. Okay, think about perspective if you're standing in the road or standing in railroad tracks and you're looking down those railroad tracks or looking down that road, it gets smaller as you get further away, okay? That's called linear perspective. So we're creating a little bit of linear perspective by having these lines converge like the sides of the road, okay? And then the ones that are further below eye level, let's say if eye level, is up here, further below eye level, the steeper the angle. So now we have these very low angled lines. It gets a little bit trickier to do the top. And again, you got to keep that angle low and keep it parallel to this. And then you come back this way and keep that low and parallel to this. Now it doesn't seem right because you can hardly see where the corner is back here because they're so flat. The greater the angle, the easier it is to see the corner. But the flatter the angle, the harder it is to see the corner. You just kind of have to trust and make this line parallel to that. You really got to force that line downward. And so now we've created a cube or a box that looks like it's closer to eye level. And then one last one we'll do down here. Let's create a cube that makes it look almost like we're looking straight down on it, like we're way above it. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw upward at even steeper angles like this. Same thing here. This is going to go up at a steep angle. And remember to drop these lines right here. Drop that straight down. Okay, your tendency is going to want to go over this way and make 90-degree angles right here. But you've got to drop it straight down parallel to the edges of your paper. Again, bring this up at a steep angle. And then this, I'm going to overlap my drawings here a little bit, but that's okay. And they're not quite parallel, but I'll just redraw it, draw and redraw, right? And then lastly, like this. So we've kind of done one at a medium eye level, way below eye level down here, and then closer to eye level here.